Well, hello everyone, how are you doing? I don't have intro music or anything for this particular one. I guess I could do my Pink Flame of Liberty one because this is going to be a political discussion in general. It's going to be a show review plus politics because this is inherently a political show. If when you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. Of course Wayne is starting the... Of course he's running the faucet. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything else other than him running the faucet at this point. I think he waits for me to go online and then he runs the faucet. All right, I am taking a look at the chat here. Let me see if I can pull it up for this show. It doesn't look like it's for this show. This is so weird. Hold on. Well, let me see. I'm still learning Twitch, so you guys comment something and let me know. Let me know if you are here. But I've got the chat up in my browser window just to make sure I am not missing anything. All right, well, I just got done. I see you here, Bullet Frenzy. Perfect, good. I can see comments. That is that is wonderful. Okay, I've got my homemade sangria here. I hope people watch the show. But first, let me just give a kind of a little bit of an introduction what I'm going to do. I might do multiple episodes a week because I am absolutely obsessed with Game of Thrones. So as I listen to other shows and hear some trivia, I'm going to really start to pay attention. It says, you can call me Bill. I'll forget. I'm just terrible with names. So, Bill, wink, wink. So this Game of Thrones type show, or Hot D, as I hear G.R.R. Martin is calling House of the Dragon Hot D, which I just think is adorable, it's not going to be like most of the fan shows, at least the type that I watch. The type that I watch are from people who are really into the books, and they go off on all this like book stuff. I know this is going to be heresy, but I'm not a fan of the books. I'm not a fan of the books. I'm just taking a look at the comments at the same time. The Game of Thrones books in general. Because to be honest with you, it's too much. It's like it's a bit much. I don't want remembering a million names and lineages and this and that to be a full-time job. If I want to read a bunch of genealogies and endless detail that's not necessary to the main plot, I'll read the Book of Deuteronomy. I loved the series because it boiled it down into enough that the average person can get a grasp of. Now, when I say read, I mean listened to. Because I don't read fiction. I read nonfiction, but I listen to a lot of fiction on Audible. And I don't have Audible as a sponsor, which I should. But I would highly recommend it for things like this. But I just couldn't get into the books. But I loved the series. I even loved the shitty seasons. So I figured I would also love this show. Now, I just got finished listening to, was it Dance of Dragons or House of Fire? I don't even remember that. I'm listening to the book right now and I don't even remember the name of it because it gets just too much. But I am almost done with listening to the book that this show is based on. And I have to tell you, I like this book, which is done through, like, allegedly, it's read like it's being read from history books written by a couple maesters and a really dirty little jester. And I like the dirty little jester's history the best, but I liked that narrative plot device. So again, this isn't going to be a super geeky, super technical. This is like a person who watches the shows, just thoughts on the show. But as I hear theories and start watching more of the geeky type people, I'll do a little bit of updates. But if like the casual, not gonna correct you, if you get what lord married which lady wrong, then this is the show for you. I initially had titled this Got Dragons because I'm in it for the dragons, but now I'm pretty much certain that the show could just be named A Bevy of Angry Blondes, because basically that's what's going on, is you have a bevy of angry blondes. I mean, there are a lot of blondes. This show is just very blonde. It's blonde. Let's just get that out of the way. And when I read like the introductory material leading up to this, I thought it was actually going to start 300 years in the past with Aegon the Conqueror. Now they mentioned that history briefly, but it's starting with King Viserys. It says 172 years prior to Daenerys Targaryen. They really are trying to hook the people who watch the original series, and that's perfectly understandable. But it made me think that people who didn't watch the original Game of Thrones are going to have a really hard time getting into this. Because I watched this premiere as if I were somebody who knew nothing about the world. Like, didn't watch Game of Thrones, didn't read any of the books. And I have to be honest with you, I don't think this show... I would have left this show if I hadn't already watched the original series or been familiar at all with the books with like, this is boring. Now, I liked it because I came into it already prepped. I came into it reading the book. I already watched the 8 seasons like 100 million zillion times, and I'm not joking with you. I've watched it a lot. But one thing I think I'm going to have a lot of trouble with in this show, it's really funny. When I watch the original series, oh, my furnace is coming on. Let me turn that off. I usually do that before the show starts. But anyway, the shows I can't watch in the original series, like, I can watch... Like, there's a lot of, like, killing and just, you know, an incesty type stuff in the original show. I can watch all that. I can watch all that and eat popcorn. The episodes I can't watch is when the 2 dragons die. I can't. I just can't. So I have a feeling I'm going to have a really hard time with this series because from what I understand from the book, there's going to be a lot of dragons dying, and that's going to bug me. That's going to bug me a lot. I cannot watch the Night King taking down that one dragon. I can't remember the name because I'm not like that kind of geek. Which one was it? Wasn't it a dragon called Viserys too? The only dragon, his name I remember from the first one is Drogon, even though I've watched this a million times. Drogon's my favorite. But, and when Euron Greyjoy killed the other one, I couldn't watch that either. I saw it once, that was enough. I don't watch those episodes again, or I fast forward past those parts. Can't stand to watch the dragons get killed. I'm gonna have a hard time. I know I'm gonna have a hard time with this show. So it starts 172 years. Now, maybe since I only listened to the book once and I kind of listened to it while doing other things, maybe I had it wrong, but it seemed like they're already deviating from the book. In that, I thought Viserys, and am I going to get his daughter's name wrong? Rhaenyra or Rhaenys? Rani. I thought he named her as heir when she was much younger. Because I thought that was the whole purpose. She was cupbearer at the small council. Rhaenys? Why am I forgetting her name right now? Let me look this up. Google, help me. Like all these weird names. Like, get me. Is it Rhaenyra? You guys got it. Rhaenys? Is that it? Well, I can't figure it out. We'll just call her Rani like we have Dany. So we have Dany and Rani. I'll get it probably by the second episode. I thought he named her as heir before the death of her mother. And when she was still little, when she was just a wee little blonde. And that's, again, why he had her as cupbearer, to start to learn the art of ruling, of statecraft. Now, people tell me if I'm wrong. But anyway, it didn't really matter in the show. it worked out fine. It just struck me as, oh, glaringly already departing from the script. And we knew how bad D&D did with that when they started departing from the script. But anyway, please correct me if I'm wrong in the book. So I'll listen to it probably again. But I thought he named her much younger. But again, maybe they did it this way to lead up to that climax at the end of the first episode, which I thought was really well done. I found the first half hour, to be honest with you, even with somebody who's a fan of the show, that has the backstory, that like loves it, I found the first half hour really boring. I can't imagine somebody who wasn't already invested lasting past the first half hour. It was a bit tedious in the beginning. And I have to tell you something else I'm disappointed with, is they don't have a new score. They ended with the regular Game of Thrones theme. They needed a whole new score for this. The musical score in the original series, even on this really crappy seasons, was just great. Like, it was a work of art. And I was expecting a new theme song to fall in love with, and there wasn't anything. And then they ended kind of with just like a meh version of the original score. I thought they spent like a gazillion billion dollars on this. Was anyone else disappointed? I don't know. The music in the original one is just so great. And again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe I missed this in the book, but I thought it was really forced and cheesy when the king's, telling the daughter he's gonna make her his heir, and then he references the title Song of Fire and Ice. Like, he references the title of a George R.R. Martin book as being and references the White Walker threat without calling it that, but saying we are the keepers of this. There's this tale that's told of this horrible winter that's coming, and the death of all the living will be, and a Targaryen has to be on the throne. If this was lore passed down, but I guess he said it was kind of a secret between like a king and the heir, so that's why Daenerys didn't know that, or Dany. I'm probably mispronouncing her name too. I don't know. I was just like, cheesy. No, come on. Try hard. Hashtag try too hard. No, didn't like that. And if it was in the book, then try too hard in the book. But I don't think that was in the book. I think that was like kind of like trying to be red meat for the fans, but instead turned out to be like really cheap, nasty blue cheese for the fans. It was not good. Not good. I hated that part. But in that scene, ooh, what I loved, besides the big ass skull of Balerion the Dread, what all those candles and then like the years and years of wax coming down. Did anyone else see that? I thought that was great. But what confused me in some of the costuming was, okay, the Faith of the Seven was still there, even though they kind of were referencing the old gods and the new. I didn't think the Targaryens ever worshiped the old gods. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that was in the book either, because Aegon and forward, they really tried to respect the new gods, the new religion, even if they said they were above it on the doctrine of exceptionalism for when they were boning their sisters. But I thought that was kind of weird, but what surprised me was like the costuming was so different. Like, what was with the flying nuns? Anyone else see the flying nuns in there around the deathbed? Like, I was expecting the typical, maybe the costume was a little more primitive of the Silent Sisters, but I did not expect the flying nuns. No one ever expects the flying nuns. It's kind of like the Spanish Inquisition. It's just never expected. I think people expect the flying nuns even less then they expect the Spanish Inquisition. But that was just kind of weird. Like, some of the costuming was just a little strange to me on things that you would think, like, when it comes to religion, it tends not to change that much. So I was surprised, at least in the religion of the seven, that it would have been more consistency. JJ, I posted a notice on Facebook and I posted a notice in Discord, as you asked me to before. Anyway, I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube after here. It's just the live part is Twitch only. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some of the little bit more of the politics, boo rulers and all of that. But I'm just waiting. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people will just enjoy this series and not go off on any woke tangents. But I remember all the complaints that were made about the original Game of Thrones. It just made me go, God, do you have to bring all of the progressive bullshit into a fantasy show? So now I'm watching this one. Of course, I'm hyper alert. So hopefully I'll be proved wrong, but I am just, because I remember all the articles that said that the original Game of Thrones suffered from the great white savior complex, where the lily white blonde woman was the savior of, the people of Marine and all of this. Okay. So with that in the back of my mind, I'm watching this going, what are people going to bitch about? And the first thing I thought is that the Valerians, great diversity, you made the Valerians black. Even though in the book they're not black. Not that there's anything, I really don't care. But you made them black, but with blonde hair. Somebody is going to be pissed about that. Plus, I've got the pink hair, so I can play crazy wokester right now. I'm going to need to drink some more. I'm Cersei Lannister here with my wine. Notice my goblet, too. All in honor of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Hot D. So, in this universe, darker tones are dominant in genes. So if you have completely white bread Caucasian person who marries and has children with a dark-skinned black person, their kid, unless the black person has some lily white Caucasian genes in their ancestry, their kid is not going to look like a Scandinavian. Genetics. Light eyes, light hair, light skin is recessive. Darker skin, darker eyes, darker hair is dominant. Now I know genetics can be a little bit more complex than that, but that's a general rule. If you have generations of Targaryens who all look like frickin' Scandinavian, like the platinum blonde hair, like pale skin, generations and generations and generations of marrying into Valerians, who in the show are dark-skinned black people who somehow have blonde hair, you're not going to end up still with the Targaryens remaining after hundreds of years lily white, platinum blonde. They're going to look more mocha, and they're not going to have platinum blonde hair. So I understand this is fantasy. There's dragons, yo. So, okay, different genetics. But I am just waiting for the wokesters to go, another white supremacy thing. You have all these lily white people marrying black people, and the white genes dominate them. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. I called it if it happens. I called it if it happens. Anyway, I'm digging the sea snake being a black guy with blonde dreads. He's badass looking, but I'm expecting somebody. He's completely badass looking. Badass. And those are some badass blonde dreads. But I am just expecting the outcry. And I will be pleasantly surprised if people just sit back and go, you want to know what? In a world where there's dragons, maybe we don't get upset about this. But I just know how people want to get upset. So, in conclusion, I did really love the way the show ended. With all of these people swearing fealty to the king's chosen heir, his eldest daughter, rather than his brother. With the whole controversy, can a woman inherit the throne? Which does have callbacks to, or call forwards to, since this is a prequel to Daenerys. So that ended on a really good note. And now I'm going to say something that's probably not going to be entirely politically correct myself. I really, really like the casting of Rani, because she has a very unique look. She's not conventionally attractive the way Dany was. Now, I'm not saying she's ugly or anything like that. I'm just saying she's got very bold, unusual features that are not typically considered conventionally beautiful. Not that she'd be considered a pretty girl, but not like a ravenously beautiful girl. And I love the look. I actually think that makes her much more interesting and pretty. That's just me. But I'm just curious if anyone else did that. And from what I understand, they're using a different actress for when she's older, because the show, from what I understand, is going to leap ahead decades. But can't you age an actress? Like, she has such an unusual look, I can't picture. Now, maybe I misunderstood some of the teasers that came out that they were going to do, and I didn't pay attention to who they cast for what, because I don't care about actors and actresses, to be honest with you. I don't follow that. I'm not a fan of that. It does drive me crazy, though, when I see somebody and I'm like, they were in something else. What else were they in? It's going to drive me crazy. Like, when I first watched Game of Thrones, when I first saw Cersei, I'm like, oh my God, I know this actress. What was she in? Until I figured out that she was Sarah Connor in the very last Sarah Connor Chronicles. It was driving me crazy. And it took me like 5 episodes to finally go, oh, Sarah Connor. And Queen Marjorie was Anne Boleyn in The Tudors, and was Cressida in Hunger Games Mockingjay, I think 1 and 2, maybe just 2. Anyway, so that, I think, is it. I think that's it for this first one, though I'm going to be doing updates as I listen to some other shows that might bring in some tidbits and of things I could have missed. But I'm gonna sip some wine here a minute to see if there's any thoughts. It says animated emotes can be disabled. I don't want a disabled animated emotes. Why is Twitch telling me that? So we homemade this sangria. Apparently, sangria is like the mutt of wines. So for one thing, we bought this box of wine. I didn't know wine came in boxes. I'm a bit suspicious of wine that comes in a box, but we bought a box of wine, and it's a shit ton of wine. So we poured that in. Then we threw in a bunch of fruit, and we squeezed in some oranges, and we threw in some pineapple juice. And then we put in 3/4 of a bottle of Bacardi coconut rum. That's our sangria. Forgot the peach juice. That'll be next time. It's pretty strong. Normally I like sangria because it's not that alcoholic, but with all that rum in there, it's pretty alcoholic. But okay. This girl ain't complaining. All right, yo. That will be all for this time. Definitely we'll see you next week. Twitch only, live stream, commentary. But during the week, I am going to add to this, but that will be streamed on all of my platforms, YouTube and whatever. It's just immediately after the show. That will be Twitch only. I appreciate you all coming by. Remember, you can email me at pinkflameofliberty@gmail.com because I do want to hear your thoughts on the show for however irreverent I am about it. And I don't kiss the ass of the books. I am a freaking huge fan. I was looking for my House Stark shirt and I just couldn't find it. And I'm like, screw it. I got Libertarian Party. That's as close as Game of Thrones, you know. Got the classic Libertarian Party one too. This is like old school, baby. And it's even got the like oldschoolLP.org on the back. It's fantastic. All right, I'm gonna get going, and I think I am gonna do my regular closing because we are gonna be dealing with politics and intrigue. So I'll keep this as a political show in my political intro and stuff. That way I don't have to find new music and make a new intro and all that. Why not? I love you. Got some LP work to do, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to